Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today, back again, I'm so thankful, is Tami Anastasia. Good morning.
Good morning, Kim. Thank you for having me again.
You know, you've got such good information that I just want to make sure our listeners can get some more of it. So I appreciate you being on.
Oh, my
And so,
pleasure.
so we're going to talk today about personal history, present care, and then insights that you've learned as you've been doing this for just a tiny bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you wrote a new book, and I'll just tell our listeners really quick. I got it, so may want to let you do that too, and so super excited about it. But the core idea of your book argues that the understanding of a loved one's personal history is key to dementia care. And so, what inspired you to frame caregiving through this particular type of lens?
So I have a private practice and I specialize in working with dementia family caregivers, especially. And when they would tell me about their loved ones' behaviors, there's a certain, well, my background's in counseling psych. So there's a certain language. And when I started asking people like details, like what exactly is your loved one saying? It made me think, there's a past history here by how it was said, what specifically was said. So I started exploring, and I will say 9 times out of 10, there is a personal history link to a behavior or sometimes what's being said. And so I just started pursuing it, and I can usually find something. And once that light bulb goes off, like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, we can personalize the care. We often dismiss dementia behaviors as, oh, it's just dementia, where in my private practice, I see a personal history. There's a connection. Think about this. I'm 66 years old. I have 66 years of memories, life experiences, and those are all in my brain. And so I have probably repressed things that maybe were painful or things I don't want to remember. I have coping mechanisms and I have ways of distracting myself from those memories. With dementia, you lose that. With dementia, these resurface, they come escalating, and they'll heighten any type of personality trait or any experience in their past because they don't have the ability to shut it off or repress it or distract themselves. So I just started going for a deeper dive, and there it was.
Interesting. And so I'm just hoping that my filter goes away for my kids taking care of me down the road. So
Yeah, and that's it too, right? The filter does go away, and things are said and done that can be very painful. It's hard to be on the receiving end of somebody with dementia and they're calling you names. And oh, by the way, the caregiver themselves has a past history, and they might be taking care of a loved one who was abusive or neglectful, and those buttons get pushed as well. So it's a two-way street, right? The dementia journey. Also, we have to take into account the caregiver's personal history as well as the person living with dementia and their personal history.
so you talk about past trauma, culture values, lifelong patterns that are resurfacing in dementia. Can you share maybe a story that kind of illustrates how that personal history has shaped the caregiver's approach?
Yes. So I'll use this one. This one's pretty on point. So I got a phone call from a gal who was referred to me, and she was telling me, her mother is in a care community, and the mother is just packing frantically, like, and worried, sick, and we got to get out of here. It's not safe. And the daughter's like, oh, it's safe, Mom. You're okay. Mom wasn't having it. So I said, tell me verbatim what your mother is telling you, what she is saying. And it made me think. Mom is fleeing a situation where she did not feel safe and felt threatened physically. So the daughter says to me, oh my gosh, that's just ridiculous. And she talked to her sister, and the daughter called me back the next day and said, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. When they were children, father was very physically abusive, and mom would pack 2 suitcases and take the kids down to the neighbor and not be subjected to his abuse. So mom's reliving this. Oh my God, I don't feel safe. I need to pack. And so when the care community knew about this story and the family knew about this story, we could totally interact with her differently because there was some truth to what she was experiencing. And the care community wanted to kick her out. I said, we don't need to kick her out. Let's work on responding in a way now that makes her feel safe. So we would go through the motions, we could redirect her, but we got into her world as though she was reliving what she was, reliving this panic and this fear. And we had to meet her where she was at. And that was a game changer in terms of the care community. One, not kicking her out. And two, it equipped us on knowing how to respond and how to deal with that behavior.
And so I found that, what you see a lot in the things that I've experienced for the past just year alone, um, has been surprising to me about how people react to certain situations, so it can be a, I hate to say it's a fun journey, but it's more sarcastic, I think, than anything, so, but many caregivers struggle with unpredictable behaviors, so this is always something we see a lot in my practice. How does your book help them move beyond the managing symptoms to truly connecting with their loved ones?
Yeah, so my book is full of questions, full of different ideas, full of different things to consider. Again, most of the time we just dismiss it, well, they have dementia. And my book allows you to explore further into the past, or if you have an awareness of their past, how that can benefit the care that we provide going forward. So let me give you another example. Many clients have trauma in their background, and they were maybe never given the language or the feeling that they ever felt really, really safe, really loved, really cared for. The dementia journey allows us to do that now. We give them language. We can say and do things that reassure them, that make them feel safe, make them feel secure. And what a gift now, before this person passes away, we've been able to connect with their soul. And maybe there's a little more peace that I'm an okay person, that I'm well loved, I'm well cared for. Maybe I've never gotten that message. The dementia journey allows us to do that. And same for the caregiver. What can we give back to the caregiver that makes you feel more at peace? Especially, again, if you're taking care of a loved one who was abusive to you, very painful, and yet it can be profoundly meaningful. So my book is chock full of stories, how to do it, questions to ask, things to think about, how to validate yourself, and also set boundaries, protect yourself too. But the main reason for writing the book was I really feel this dementia journey can heal old wounds, not only in the person living with dementia, but the caregiver themselves. And for as painful and challenging, again, it can be transformative.
And I think anytime that you can heal is always a blessing.
Yeah.
And so definitely. So, in addition to helping that person with dementia, you've been talking about, caregiver well-beings, what strategies does the book empower caregivers to cope and heal themselves?
Yeah. So there's one particular chapter 10 in my book, which is almost 40 pages long, 50 pages long, that talks about all the different tools that you could, and of course, there's no one tool that's going to fit everybody perfectly, right? So it's equipped with a lot of, we call it the healing toolbox, actually. And there's tons of tools, but I'm going to say one of the most impactful, we don't realize how our self-talk, what we say to ourselves about our loved ones' behaviors and our behaviors affects us. And if we change or reframe our expectations of ourselves, our expectations of our loved one, it shifts the dynamics of how we care. Right now, if I think my loved one's doing this intentionally, or I think my loved one's doing this to hurt me, we're very reactive. But if I reframe what I'm thinking, not only about myself, but my loved one that I'm caring for, we become more reflective. And also, I teach how to honor your feelings. You're going to get frustrated. You are going to get angry. You feel tremendously lonely, impatient. These are all feelings that are very normal. And the caregiver does a number on themselves and starts, this self-deprecating, and the caregiver needs to give back to themselves the same love, unconditional love, the support. And a lot of times people didn't get that messaging either when they were children. So I really help people reframe their expectations of themselves as well as the person they're caring for, set boundaries. Boundaries can be time boundaries, task boundaries, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries. I talk a lot about, changing your expectations and goals, and really how to pace yourself through this, because you don't know how long this journey is going to be. And it breaks my heart that so many people I see in my private practice, the guilt is so consuming. I hear it in my support groups. I hear it when I do speaking events. And I think there is no place for guilt in dementia care. And yet people are consumed by it. So if we can change the trajectory, if we can change how we feel, how we think, it changes how we react.
A lot of people will tell you, and I laughingly tell a lot of people, we were raised on guilt and shame. So,
Yeah,
it's hard to shake that stuff,
it
because
is.
it's been trained over generations, something that you don't know why, but it's there, So, Tammy, memory care communities and assisted living facilities are now using your book and staff training. So, good job there.
Thank you.
And what practical tools or frameworks from the books have proven to be the most, impactful in these professional settings? Because these are people that do this day after day after day.
Right, exactly. And you also have to keep in mind too that the professionals caring for a loved one with dementia have triggers also. So not only does the family have triggers, the person living with dementia have triggers, but professionals have triggers. So the book enlightens you to your own triggers, to be aware of your own triggers, because we could react. We're taking care of a client or a resident, and they remind me of my dad, and my dad treated me badly. And again, so the book really brings to the surface and brings to the reader's attention, whether you're a professional caregiver, care community, a home care agency, or just a family caregiver or a family member. It just brings to the surface these other dynamics to consider, that when you're caring for a loved one or a person living with dementia, to be aware that it's not just about the behavior, it's to go beyond the behavior. What are they trying to tell us? What do they want us to know? Every behavior is a form of communication, and we all have basic needs: to feel safe and secure, to feel heard and understood, to feel reassurance and support, to feel a connection, to feel a sense of purpose. That's one thing we forget. People with dementia still need to feel purposeful, still need to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of connection. And I think that need stays with us till the time we pass away. So it's really about educating people on, these are the facets to look at. These are the things not to take at face value on the surface, what's happening, but looking beyond it, because we get caught up in, okay, this behavior is challenging, or they're being difficult. Why? Are they being combative because they perceive what you're doing as being a threat or a harm? Well, it would make sense they'd be combative. They're protecting themselves in the same way we would, but for different reasons. So it's just really educating, as well as giving you tools and insights to understand behavior better and how to respond and to care better. So the care communities now are learning other aspects to consider when we're caring for a person, a resident. What are all the factors to think about? And not only that, here's umpteen million tools for us to utilize in bringing that comfort and making them feeling safe and secure. So it really, it warms my heart to know that the care communities and home care agencies are using the tools in my book.
So, what do you hope that the dementia caregiving and personal history challenges and how families and society view dementia care, especially in honoring their personal stories?
I think it's really, again, it goes down to why I wrote my book. because I really truly feel this journey is so complex and so challenging. If I can bring something to the person who is living with dementia, who's had a traumatic childhood, or the caregiver has struggled with self-esteem and self-worth and self-value, if I can bring something that could bring peace to the inner soul, then I feel that's what I want this dementia journey to teach people. And again, not to minimize by any chance the complexities and the challenges, because they're deep, and the loneliness and the frustration and the anger and the shift in relationships, all these dynamics that change, right? But then again, dementia, for as difficult as it can be, again, can be profoundly transformative if we allow it to be. But I want to honor the person living with dementia, and I want to honor the caregiver caring for the person living with dementia. And if I can do that through my words and my work, then my soul is filled with much love and understanding for the people who are living the dementia journey.
We see a lot of families that come in, hopefully we get them in an early diagnosis so we can get some good paperwork done.
Yeah.
But sometimes, even our existing clients that now have dementia, it gets very frustrating. I met a client that had just gotten a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. She cried the whole time she was in my office.
Yeah.
As I'm sitting beside her, holding her hands, telling her, it's going to be great. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. So, but it just breaks your heart because you wish you could do more, to help the families, through that, so I'm a hugger. I hugged her on the way out, and so, cause that's, it's just kind of what we do in my family, so, so that's really helpful. So Tami, how do people find you? And then, tell them where your book is so they can go get that one too.
Okay. So my website is www.tamianastasia.com, and it's TamiAnastasia.com. And then my email is Tami@TamiAnastasia.com. Again, Tami@TamiAnastasia, TamiAnastasia.com. Or you can always phone call, and that phone number is 408-377-4716. And you can find my book on Amazon.
Yes, definitely. So, and so Tami, it's great to have you on the show. You were so insightful, and what you give back is just enormous. And so I'm hoping that we can have you on again soon.
Oh, I would love that. And it's an honor and a pleasure always, Kim, to see you. And thank you again for having me be a guest.
All right. Thanks so much, hon. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.